Revenger is a Korean action film. I just saw it on Netflix. Honestly, it was never on my list, but this movie has a really interesting setup. It's very similar to sort of a setup that Bruce Lee would love. I noticed that when I was rewatching Bruce Lee, A Warrior's Journey, that his original Game of Death took place in like an area where there's no guns. And in the movie Circle of Iron, which he co-wrote the story, there also are no guns in that story. He honestly, Bruce Lee was all about martial arts and, philosophy, and he'd always try to find a way to not write guns into the script because, guns kind of ruin a martial arts sequence because, why fight if you can just shoot each other? So this plot, the premise is really intriguing. So that's what kind of grabbed me at the beginning. Basically, we start with a woman and a child, and they're wearing prison uniforms, and they're running on this island beach being chased by other inmates. They're on some sort of island prison, and the woman gets overpowered, and the bad guys are going to grab this kid when this Hannibal Lecter like dude comes up from the ocean, and he's got like the face mask, he's got a straitjacket on. He manages to take out everyone with just his legs, and then the kid releases him so he can save the mom. We find out we're on AP 101. It is an island prison full of the most hardened and deadly criminals of Asia, I guess, not just Korea. So the main character is a cop whose family was killed by Kun, a terrible criminal. However, he survived a death attempt, and Kun now rules the island, I guess. He manages to kill all of the officials there, and whoever's left over became his followers. So there's no like letter of the law on the island. It's just, whoever's strong. So the cop character, he plays a really strong silent type. He barely has like 10 lines of dialogue, but we know why he wants to do what he wants to do, and he's really good at fighting. So at first he stays with this little village that's kind of hidden from everyone else. They're, I guess, the lesser evil, and there's only some of them, but he immediately, has to go out and try to find Kun and take out all of his guys. And the movie has some terrific action sequences. There's four main action sequences. There's the opening fight. There's a fight with him looking for that little girl. She runs off and he has to find her. And then there's a amazing sword fight in the valley, and then the final battle. So this movie has terrific action sequences. That sword fight had me on the edge of my seat. It was just an amazing, raw, brutal usage of weaponry. I really liked how the movie was really realistic when it comes to sword fighting. Swords are sharp, Usually the fight ends within like a couple of seconds. It's not something that you protract. It's like, he'll cut you. If you let your, if they get through your defense, they cut your body, it's over. So that's kind of like what the fight's like. He takes out all of these small henchmen, and then he takes on two specialists, and as soon as they start getting cuts, it's over. And that's probably the highlight of the film. It's not even the final battle. The opening fight's okay. The second fight, where he fights a whole bunch of like kind of lesser inmates, it wasn't exciting because none of them knew how to fight. And there was a sub-boss character, but he's not very good. And then there's the final battle, which is over the top. This movie has a really cool premise and really great stunt work and action choreography, but literally nothing else. A lot of the things aren't really explained, like how Kun took over the island, or how the main, the goal of the main character, or like the sort of situation that sort of led to the main character getting captured and having his family executed in front of him. They don't show him escaping or anything, or literally anything. They're kind of just like, whatever, man, that doesn't matter. What matters is that he's on the island and he's fighting people. And I'm like, you could have given the audience a little bit more, because, like, for example, the premise is that he killed so many of these terrible criminals that he's being sent to the island too, when a better plot would have been that we find out later that he was sent there on purpose to clean up the island. That would have been a way better plot, just a small change, and that would completely make sense. Officials that run the prison, they find out that it's chaos, and instead of sending a whole police squad in there to go find people on this giant island, just send one guy who wants to be there, who wants to exact revenge. Boom. Could have just been like a commando in the jungle type thing, but they had to make him have the weird Hannibal Lecter mask and everything. It was like an aesthetic choice, and it made the movie seem very cartoonish and comic book like, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's just a lot of gaping holes in the movie, and The movie also commits the atrocious sin of having your main character not be in the movie for a good 20 minutes, and then the movie just completely suffered because he was in a coma after a fight, and they're just like, eh. So the Revenger has some really great action sequences. If you're just looking for, you know, something in the vein of a Steven Seagal movie, where his older ones, where, you know, he just lays into people and wants revenge, then yeah, watch the movie. If you're a fan of martial arts, sure. If you just want an action movie, sure. But I felt like the movie could have used a lot more work in the story department because it had a pretty cool premise. So I give Revenger a 4 out of 10.